So I have to say something about Mr. Graham Taylor, that in the day that I signed, they brought me to Vicarage Road. And someone told me, the gaffer wants to speak with you. And I say, okay, but who is gaffer? And I was standing like that, yeah.
That wasn't the first time that Smarty and Jono were asked to leave a venue. And me and Pagey negotiated with bouncers in most bars in Watford.
You had no negotiation skills at Pagey.
And they put me in the room with Peter Kennedy. And before I came, I say it will be easy for me because I speak English not bad at all. And when I get to the room, he get to the shower and he start talking to me. And I wonder to myself, what did he say to me? What did he say to me?
I think that, no, the team spirit, I've heard all the lads talk about it tonight, the team spirit we had was phenomenal. And it come from the front, absolutely, with GT. He knew when to get us on the grass, he knew when not to. In one particular instant, I remember him asking for 6 volunteers to drive, and the rest had to get in the car with him, and he sent us on a wild goose chase around the Harlequin Centre 4 times. And
he used to tease us, to be fair. He used to get us changed first, didn't he?
Yeah.
We all thought we were going out running.
We're all no kit, and we're driving around the Harlequin Centre, and we'd end up at Rita's, and Rita would have made sandwiches and tea and coffee, and we'd watch the game back from Saturday. You know, so I've never known any other manager to do that, and Rita was part of the coaching staff.
Ladies and gents, we'll be hearing from all of the players involved during the course of the evening and some notable others involved in the 1998-99 season too. Can you please put your hands together for our first interview tonight? It's the man, as we mentioned, who's played a big part in getting all these guys back here tonight, as well, of course, as being an integral member of that promotion-winning team. We're going to have a quick chat with him now. Richard Johnson. Richie, just how much fun, first of all, has it been getting back in touch with all these former teammates and putting tonight together?
Fun? It's been hard work, mate, to be honest with you. Listen, as soon as I mentioned it, sent the email or phone call, everybody said yes within like seconds. So, and for everybody to make it on the evening has made it extra special, that's for sure. It was just an amazing period, and like I said, to have all the boys back and being in touch with everyone again, it's been absolutely amazing. And fair play to all the lads, they've all got busy lives, and Bays and Alon coming back, Johan making it, all the boys here. I know Pagey's just been rushing down the motorway to get here, so the effort that everybody's put in behind the scenes and the guys who have made it here has been superb.
We'll touch on matters off the field shortly. Let's stick to the fact that you did score 10 goals in that season. Is it clouded by the injury, or can you still take joy out of the fact that you played a big role in this season?
No, for the season itself, you know, I think I played a big role in that season, and we had a good time that season. Just for myself, obviously getting the injury when I did. I thought there was a time when I was going one direction, and the injury kind of put me back. But to be fair, Tommy took the mantle up, and he started banging the goals, and he brought the boys through it really. So overall, as for the team, it wasn't really a major issue. But obviously for me, from a personal aspect, it was quite gutting really, because I was enjoying it. I was just enjoying it. You know, Michael was saying earlier, it was just fun. You know, every day we went into training, and it wasn't training. Like, I don't think anyone wanted to be injured. I don't think anyone wanted to be injured because every day it was fun, it was banter, it was hard work. We'd have banter about kicking out of each other. Sorry, my language, but like, you know, we'd have a 5-0 at the end, and it would be loads of banter after training about the team that lost, or there was the yellow shirt we had one point, and there was a lot about the pink shirt or with it to jersey. There's loads of other stuff we had in the group, and as my career went on and I went to different clubs, I never found that. You know, I never found that really that same that friendship, that deep bond. I played with good players and got promotions and other stuff like that, but it wasn't the same. You know, with these guys, we were like a family. We'd go out to eat sometimes, and it was kind of a rule. I don't know if it was you can't go home before 9 o'clock, was it, or 8 o'clock, and we had to be out.
At 9 a.m. Johnson's looking at me. Alan.
Smarty and John had different rules, but yeah, but everyone was together, you know, for all the times, and we had fun. It was a real fun time, and I think the gaffer, Graham Taylor, he had a good mix and blend of making sure that we was very disciplined, but also letting us say to us, you know what, boys, you deserved it. Go out on Tuesday night, go and have a dinner, and go to the Italian or wherever we would go and have a good night. He wouldn't have us in on a Wednesday running. He would say, go and have a good night. You're going to rest on. We'd run Tuesday before we went out. But doggy boards, those doggy boards. We'll go and do loads of running before. You know about the doggy boards.
Michelle, were you not good at running?
No, I was not bad actually. I was good there. I was good.
Who are you going to single out here?
No, Michael was probably one of the best I've ever. So I can't single Michael out. Now, to be fair, I don't think there was many that didn't like to run, because we had Chambo. That was a nightmare, and we'd have a bleep test, and everyone knows the rules, the standard rules. You can't break out the bleep test before the goalkeeper. Everyone knows that. But you got Chambo running at level 14, and as you're running on, and you're saying Chambo, stop, and he's going on, and then it got to a point where there's probably about 5 or 6 of the lads. Chambo, I don't know to use the language, but Chambo, you can imagine some of the language that was used towards him, you know. And it was just stuff like that. Just it was really, we was competitive, you know. Every day in training, Michael's probably one of my best friends in football. Well, not probably, he's my best friend in football. And there was times when I'd want to kill him during training, you know. And Jono would sometimes pick me up from training and bring me home, and he would kick lumps at me during training. And on the way home, he's talking to me like I'm his mate, and I'm thinking to myself, I don't really fully understand that, because, you know, like, I've got bruises here, bruises there, and he's smiling with me. You out, mate? You out, mate? Driving home. But those guys in that time taught me a lot about being professional, you know, and about when you step over that line, you're an animal, you're a lion, you're whatever you want to call yourself, a dog, whatever you want to call yourself. When you step back off the line, you can be a gentleman. You can have a laugh, you can have a joke, you can have all that kind of stuff. And Graham Taylor, Kenny Jackett, I think they brought it to us as well. It wasn't just us that they made up ourselves. I think they molded us together. He realised we had guys from up north, guys from south, black guys, white guys, guys from abroad, guys from this country, and we had a great blend of friendship. And I was talking to Johan earlier, and we was all friends. Like, genuinely, we was. I know it's hard to say because everyone says that. Oh, it was great times. It was great times, but it genuinely was. I mean, me and Moons had a couple of fights and arguments and stuff, and no, it was the truth. We did, and he knows that one. He knows that one. But we all there was little arguments at times and little battles at times, but it was all done and dusted, and it was all done the right way, you know, because we wanted to win.
So what was it like being amongst these lads? Because is English culture typical, the same as Viking culture, or did you have a lot of learning to do off the field?
No, I had it was a tough learning to begin with. The banter in the dressing room was really tough, but it was really good. There was only, I think, 2 foreign players. It was Alan and Ronnie when I came.
Michelle? Yeah. Peter Kennedy. You don't. It's Are you campaigning for that Brexit clause?
But he's he's still the only player I don't understand.
So he's overseas.
What's that?
He's overseas then, yeah?
Yeah, probably. But it was really good. The atmosphere in the team was unbelievable. For me to come in as I didn't know anybody, like anybody in the country, to come into these surroundings was a privilege for me to see a group of players that were so tight together. Obviously, I was very young. I was a young player coming in, but it was unbelievably good for me and for my career, probably as a player later on, and as a coach, to have been through that, to see what makes a team and like team that is successful. And you could see that it was like somebody said, it's probably not the most gifted players, but it's the togetherness and that came out of the team. And it was no surprise that when I came in March '98, and then only 2 years later we were in the Premier League. Probably nobody would, and I did not think that was going to happen when I came, but it was unbelievable.
How much did that season or seasons influence how you are around football now?
It influenced me a lot. Probably it's maybe most like you can say indirect, because it's just it was the first time I was at a professional club. I come from totally different background, and to go straight into this and see how things are supposed to be done straight on was priceless for me.
So eating pork chops rather than puffing wasn't a problem then?
Yeah, probably.
Take a while to get used to the English food, did you?
No, we're used to rotten sharks and everything, so it's...
Johan Gudmundsson, everyone. Top man. Lovely. Shall we do one more, John? Let's speak to one more.
One more.
We're coming round the table now to someone who was injured for a lot of that season, but was a star of the season before. Do you want to stand up? Actually, just wait. An Israeli international, played for Tottenham Hotspur and Liverpool. He did. Did you ask? Could they sing your song before you stand up? I think. Should we agree on that? Gentlemen from the back. Hey. All right. All right, that's enough of that. He did. Okay, up you get, Ronnie. Top man. Here he is, Ronnie Rosenthal, ladies and gentlemen.
You ask me, I want to tell them something. Because today is the opportunity.
Are you all sitting comfortably, guys?
Yes. So I always remember the day that Graham Taylor called me. I finished my contract with Spurs, and he said to me, Ronnie, I want to meet you, and I want to talk to you. And I said, okay, for sure. I will come to see you, that's for sure. But in my mind, I say I've been like 8 seasons at, in the Premier League, 4 for Liverpool, nearly 4 for Spurs. And for me, it was a little bit culture shock to go to Watford, who were at the time at League One, basically. At the time, it was, the third tier of the English football. It's a sharp drop to go from Premier League. So I said, well, I have to think about this, but I'll definitely go and meet Graham because I respect him and I'll do it. So I came to the ground and we went down to the ground. We were walking and he told me about the situation, that he will take charge of the team. And he said to me, Ronnie, I want you to come and help me, and I don't expect you to run a lot because you never run. Yeah. But I want you to win game for me. Yeah. You say, I want you to win game for me. And yeah. and I want you to help me because I've got a bunch of young players here, and you've got experience, and you can do this. So I said, okay, give me 24 hours, I'll give you an answer. So I went home, I spoke with my wife, and of course, Graham impressed me a lot. And I said, yes, I'll do it. And I remember the first, after I signed the contract, in the first week or two, I was a little bit still under shock to come to a club that is in the 30 of English football. But I realized with the time, as Gifton said, we were fantastic guys, and I got to learn everyone, and I fell in love with the club. So I said it's the best moment that happened in my career to sign for Watford, and we're going to do this together, and we did it. So that's the little story behind it. Yeah.
Ronnie, yeah, lovely. Yeah. Beautiful.
Now you can ask me what you want.
Oh, thank you. That's all right. I've ditched these questions because I couldn't ask a question that would elicit a better answer than that. But you were injured for a lot of the 98-99 season, but we've interviewed the guys over the years, and they've all spoken about your influence and your driving in slippers in the Mercedes lying down as well. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not sure about this.
Okay.
But
Yeah, I saw it. But they've all spoken about how influential you were in the dressing room in the lead-up. What did you bring as the man who had already done lots of things in his career? What did you bring to these guys?
I remember that I came and I saw players like Micah, like Gifton, like Richard, and I remember I took them to the side and I told them they were all good athletes, that great condition, great power, speed, and I said to them, we can make it together. And I took them, one by one, and I told them, listen, you're a player, you can show it, there's no problem, even if you start from scratch, you can show it. So I remember days that I took them to the side, and I had to report it, of course, to Graham, because everything, I was, maybe kind of, someone that can report to him things that happen.
Senior
in the
player, yeah?
Yes.
When you weren't on your phone.
So this...
Yeah. It's good.
So yes, obviously in the beginning of the, I think the season 97,
97-98 when you first joined.
98,
Yeah.
and then I got injured. I was injured a lot, but I still a little bit I help him by sitting on the bench, talking to players. And
did you enjoy that? Did you enjoy watching others do well?
For me, it was a challenge to. It was a project basically. And I'll tell you moreover, when I signed the contract, we agreed on the term, and then I said I would like to have a bonus to go up. And Graham and John Alexander at the time, they said, sure, we will give you a bonus, yes, if we go up from League One to Championship, basically, yeah. But I said, no, I don't mean this. I mean from Championship to Premier League. And I remember John looked at me, and even Graham was a little bit surprised, yes. I said, I want to go to the Premier League. I'm here to go to the Premier League. But they loved it so much, so I got a bonus. I got a bonus to go to the Premier League.
Let's just establish this. You played. You made 5 appearances in that season, and you got a large bonus when the team got promoted.
No, but I didn't get it in then because I did not have enough games.
Oh, you didn't play enough games?
No.
Oh, beautiful. There is a happy ending to this story.
But that's basically that. They liked the idea that I wanted to go to the Premier League.
I understand totally. No, you said you got the bonus, so
I didn't
the
get
boys.
No.
The boys are not happy around the table.
I had it in my contract. I had it in my contract.
How long did you get a bonus?
Actually, I didn't have any bonus. The only bonus that I have that I came from Israel, suddenly in 30 years old, when Ronnie called me and said to me, Watford Football Club want you to play for them. And I say, 30 years old, what I have to do abroad? And Ronnie said to me, you have to taste it. And I have to be honest, the only bonus that I get for my career, that I spend the time in Watford Club, because I follow for a Watford Football Club right now. It's a huge club now, but it's never a family club like it was before. And that was a great chance for me. And when I came in the first day, Ronnie told me that Watford Football Club is a professional club, professional football, not like in Israel. So he picked me from the hotel, and we get to the club, and he said to me, "Do you have a spare socks?" And I say, "Okay, football professional club. They don't have a spare socks? Okay." A day later, he said to me, "Do you have a double shirt?" And I say, that's the only time that I understand the reason that he bring me as a kit man, not as a player.
We'll hear more from Alon later. For now, Ronnie Rosenthal.
Thank you.
Chris, let's come to you first. It's obviously a very different season for you, supporting the man on the far right. You also had another role as well, didn't you, on match days? You were in the commentary box, I believe.
Yeah, basically the season was warming Alec up, running back inside and doing the commentary on 3 counties for most of the season. And the biggest
It's a really bad gig, that, by the way.
Biggest disappointment I had was when we got to the semi-finals and final, I had to be on the bench, so I couldn't do it. So the biggest game of the season I was looking forward to with all you guys. I'm sure I kept you entertained on a few shocking Tuesday nights away at Port Vale and the likes. And all of a sudden at Wembley, I've got to go and sit on the side with my outfield shirt on, just in case someone got injured.
How much did you enjoy that? And how tough is that when it's your colleagues, it's your teammates, and this lot are all listening to you, and probably you're telling this lot what you're saying?
Well, to be honest, there were some games where I dressed it up a little bit because, it was like watching 2 pigeons in the park running around kicking each other. But again, working with the people I did, back at the time, obviously Mike was involved with the club, but, I've kept in touch with Crofty that I've done a lot of work with back in the day, and look where he's gone now at the level. So, on looking back at my career at the time at the club, it was fantastic to see what was going on and learning from Alec. It might have took me a few years after that, but when I got an opportunity at Stevenage, when I got to the age of 33, everything this guy helped me with, I put into place. I put into place genuinely, and if I've got any problems in football, he's the first man I'll still ring up now.
You say that you put those into place. What did he teach you? What sort of teacher was he, and what did you learn from him?
Just a steady, just the sort of guy he is. You won't hear anyone in football say a bad word against him, but just the way that he trained, his consistency, and the professionalism he brought to it. I just learnt from him. And the way that he interacted with you guys as well. Just the respect that everyone had for him. It's something that I was very fortunate that later on in my career I had the opportunity to put that in place myself. So I'm very grateful for working with him.
What was the view like at Wembley from the bench?
It was magnificent. The view in the fountains afterwards were better anyway.
Let's go across to Alec. I'm sure you'll be very humble and you won't accept any of that praise that Chris has just given you. We're going to take you back. We've talked a little bit about Wembley, and we'll talk about that in a sec. But probably your finest hour was getting us there.
Yeah, well, before I start, I have to say...
Now we can talk... Well, before we start...
Go on, Chabo. Yeah, that was a terrible penalty, but luckily I went the right way. So, yeah, I knew as the fella hit it, I was going to save it, and that's why I had a smile on my face. And then, obviously, it was just about the celebration, really, which they've not focused on, because I think Palms, Pagey, we're all jumping around on the edge of the 18-yard box. Such was my pace. I hadn't got far with my sprint. But, I was going to say about Daisy, what an amazing guy, because obviously I'd been on the reverse of that at Sunderland at times, and I'd done the radio at Sunderland with BBC Newcastle, so I know exactly what he'd been through, and I think to a degree that we had a special relationship between the squad anyway, but certainly there was a respect between me and Daisy, which has continued for the rest of our lives, and I'm sure it will do forever.
It's such a unique position. You're in direct competition, but do you have to be a team? Do you have to support each other?
Well, in those days, definitely. I think things have changed slightly, but I definitely think in those days it was a union, as you know, everybody refers to it. And if you were playing, great, but if you weren't, you supported the guy that had the shirt. And I think we both did that, you know, at our times, you know. And in whatever club I was at, I like to think I did that, and I'm sure Daisy was the same. I know he was, because you know, he obviously went on and then had fantastic times and promotions as well himself. So it was lovely to see that, having sort of done his apprenticeship, even though he was not a young boy. You know, he was an experienced lad in his own level, but he came then and really showed what he was all about later in life, and that's kind of what happened with me, really. So it was almost like history repeating itself a little bit.
Enough of this goalkeeper loving. Let's have a radio loving. Let's just quickly go down to the front row and bring these guys in. Nick, fresh from Carlisle, along with your mate, Smarty.
Who said he was my mate?
Well, he is now, well, by default, because you both came down together, sort of thing. But how was that? How was that move from you? And I mean, we talked about Ronnie having to be convinced to drop down. What was it like for you guys coming from Carlisle down to here?
I think it was really easy. The first probably sniff that I knew that Watford might be interested was when we played away at Vicarage Road for Carlisle, who were really struggling. Watford were fighting for promotion, and to be fair, I think we outplayed Watford on the day. But Palms behind me.
I think still lost though.
Go back to Alec, man of the match on the day. Palms, I think, man marked me for the second half, which was weird. I'd never ever known that in my career at that stage. But the biggest thing was when we came off the pitch, the reason we knew we'd done well was the person at our dressing room door saying, "Well done, you didn't deserve to lose," was Graham Taylor. And that is just something that I've never heard of anywhere else in football, that the opposing manager would be congratulating the other team. And it said lots and lots about the man, and certainly helped influence my decision to sign when he spoke to me in the summer.
The man who man-marked you that night, he's got a microphone. You were player of the season, voted by these guys, Steve Palmer. How much? You can use that one? You can use that one? Yeah. Tell us your memories of the season, and how did that make you feel that the supporters voted you the best player of that campaign?
My memories of that season were that it was something much has been spoken about the group of players, but it wasn't. We weren't successful all of the season, and there were some ups and downs in it. And my overriding memory, and something that I remember, was that and I don't know if the players will remember this, but Graham put a notice up on our board, and it said there's 9 games to go. 9 games is 27 points. 27 points is the playoffs. 2 playoff victories is Wembley. 1 Wembley victory is the Premier League. And I'm not sure whether we really took that in at the time, but that sort of stimulated a run that we went on to, which ultimately culminated in that victory. Was that psychology? What was it? I don't know, but it worked for us as a group of players. And I have that memory through that. In terms of personal things, it was about the group. It was fantastic to have that award at the end of the season, but the journey that we'd been on over those 2 years, that was the culmination of it. And so I only have happy memories of that time.
I think you've got that bit of memorabilia, haven't you?
I did, yeah, I wasn't sure if I should mention that, but when we went back to the training aid after it, I pinched the notice and I've still got it at home.
Steve Palmer stole it.
Disgust me.
Darren, let's bring you in. Someone who come through the youth system at the club. Promotion the previous season, as Steve has mentioned. You gradually got converted, I guess, into a right back. What was that journey like from through the youth team into the first team and ultimately to the Premier League?
I mean, the culmination, the final year was brilliant. You know, it was the top end of a long time that I was at Watford, and the best year I had in my whole career. It's the year I look back on. It's the game I look back on. It's the moments I look back on. It's the people I look back on as the best that I had. I was lucky. I grew up with a lot of good people. I grew up with Jono and Pagey and Robbo and Gibbo. You know, Gibbo was great for me. You know, I was a winger. Some of you might remember a long while back. I was a winger and a striker at times.
What was that like, having to then gradually move back down the pitch and end up as a right back? Whose decision was that, and why did it come about?
Yeah, I was probably the gaffer's. You know, I probably wasn't consistent enough as a winger or creative enough as a winger, but I found coming to fullback, you know, probably suited me a little bit with the way the game changed and fullbacks changed and getting forward. But you know, someone like Gibbo, who you know is absolute legend at the club, you know, and I followed from when I was young, you know, and yeah, he was great for me. And when I started transitioning into a fullback, you know, even though we were competing for spaces, he was always there to help me and you know help me understand the role and. You know, he's a top guy, you know, that is, you know, legend at the club, so brilliant. But, you know, it worked for me, and I was able to get forward and get some crosses in that were on target sometimes. And not sometimes. Get it in the mixer. And Tommy will get on the end of it.
We'll get Tommy's view on that a little bit later. We talk about, Steve just mentioned about the run to the playoffs and the 9 games. I think there's one game that obviously we're all going to remember that kicked that off. Peter, have you got a mic? Excellent, yeah. We'll talk to the 2 reprobates that sort of really kicked that Tranmere game off a little bit later on. But you were a scorer that day as we came back from a goal down out of a horrible run of form to win that game with 9 men, 2-1. Tell us about your goal and just what the feeling was like once you got that win, and was there that feeling in the dressing room that something might just be changing?
Yeah, I think you're correct what you're saying there, because I think we were going through a bad run at the time, and it's just one of those days that Tranmere were a tough team to play against, and I think if I remember rightly, it's just one of those things just failed me and I hit it and went in the net. But if I remember rightly, I think I missed a penalty.
We were being nice to you before that, yeah.
Missed a penalty, but Michelle came up and scored the rebound, and I think that's where Smarty and Richard maybe ended up. Maybe Richard was before that. But that day was a bit of a changing point for us going forward. I can't exactly remember how many games it was out, but I think that day it was a nothing game. Nothing much had happened. But it was very important to get 3 points that day, and that sort of put us on the run then to go on and do what we did for the rest of the season.
We're going to fast forward to the playoff semi-finals. The one man we haven't heard from yet, Michelle. Welcome. 3 minutes played, 4 minutes played, and you put us ahead. I think you enjoyed the celebration as well. I think we might see that. But what was that experience like? You're coming into the English game, your first season with us. You're in a massive game, big responsibility on strikers. And you managed to find the back on it. So
I will explain my story. I came in Watford because Ronnie talked to the gaffer. He was looking for a striker, quite speed, and he was thinking about me. He bring me to Watford, and I didn't have the chance to, because I'm living in Belgium. I didn't have the chance to come to not celebrate, but to come to the cemetery for the gaffer. But He's the guy that when I first met him, he was really human being, you know. He talked to me really, come here, and he will play, I trust you. And he was every time giving you good words. And that's why I was pleased when John called me to come to the 20 years. And my 3 seasons in Watford was amazing. I was with the lads. We're good friends, and I'm still chat with them by Facebook. But I'm quite in a relationship with Ronnie and Alan. Then I was quite experienced players when I arrived in Watford. I was already playing in the Premier League in Belgium and in Turkey. But when I arrived, I saw the English football quite really hard. It was really physical, and had to get on it because it was not easy for me, because the second ball, jumping everywhere, I don't understand. I used to get the ball on the ground, and then it was just over my head. But after 4 months, okay, I think I've done my job, and that's why I've been integrated straight away with the lads. And football is simple of that. You have to have good people around you and a good gaffer to manage everything, and that's what we have done. It's simple of that.
We win the first leg 1-0. We then go up to St Andrews. Alec, do you want to pick up the story? You're on the bus, and I guess you all got that preparation, and you want to get to the ground, and it's a massive game. Didn't quite go to plan, though, did it?
No, we'd been at the Belfry in the afternoon and had a pre-match, gone to bed, left, and we got caught in traffic on the way to the game. So I was not happy, Bunny, because obviously, as a goalkeeper, you want to get out and get your warm-up done. I think the lads go out a little bit later, so they were a little bit more relaxed about it, but I was definitely not inside me anyway. I don't think I necessarily showed it, but I was nervous anyway, and it probably showed at the start of the game. And we didn't really get off the bus as a team, and the goal was awful between us all. I held my hands up afterwards. And then we sort of just had to, it was the momentum of the game really went against us, and everybody had to just dig in and try and get through it really, which is what happened. It wasn't our best performance, but we managed to get through and get it to penalties really, and then it's in the lap of the gods. And I say that, and there was so much preparation went into the penalties that we deserved to go through by the preparation that Graham made the players go through. It was meticulous. He made them walk from the halfway line. By this time, we couldn't train at a training ground. We went to the private school. What's it called? Merchant Taylors. That's it. And we were training there, and it was a big open space. But he had the pitch marked out the size of Wembley, and made the lads walk from the halfway line with the whistle. You can imagine he did it, everything meticulous, and the result was almost immaculate penalties. You know what I mean? Sorry, Palms.
Almost.
But everybody else's, don't blame yourself, but everybody else's were great. And I mean, literally skimming the bar, and there was a few little skips here and there. I remember Alon skipped in the air when he hit his because he wasn't too sure, but there were some absolutely magnificent penalties. So I take my hats off to the lads that took the penalties, because that must have been one of the most scariest points of their careers. To score a goal in that situation when you know what's at the end of it is so much more difficult than being a goalkeeper, where really you're the hero. You've got nothing to lose, so going the right way on a penalty is a lot easier than doing what they had to do.
Alex, right, what he said, we practiced that all week. The week leading up to that game, at the end of training, we all had to stand on the halfway line, and as you've already heard, some of the banter is pretty fierce. So to have to walk up in front of the lads, walk up, one chance, you know you can't retake it, one chance you're done, was pretty scary within training with the banter that we had going. So we did that every day for a good probably 10 days, and when we came to that moment, I know personally myself, I look back at that as I'm very proud that I was there on that day, and I took a penalty and was lucky to score that penalty. But on the day, I had I knew exactly where I was going to put it, and that's all down to Graham. I knew exactly where I was going to put the penalty, and I was confident, and I knew I was going to score. And I think most of the lads, sorry, pass. I think most of the lads felt the same. You know, we knew we were, like Gifton said earlier, there was games we knew we were going to win. We weren't the best set of lads, but we were a great set of lads with a great spirit, and I knew we would win that. When we got into penalties, I knew we'd win that. There was never a moment we weren't going to.
No, absolutely. No, I had full confidence in the lads taking them. It was just whether or not I could bloody save one. That was the problem.
Well, we did wait till the 9th.
Way to a shit penalty, yes.
You know, that I learnt some lessons that have served me in good stead ever since on that day. That preparation and that focus, okay, it didn't quite work out for me on that time, but those lessons that I learnt, I've used throughout my life ever since, and so that was a great learning experience. Personally, I went through some fairly dramatic emotion changes in those few minutes after missing one, and then when Alex saved it. And you know, that I still remember being on the pitch afterwards, the group of players that we had there, and that served us in good stead as we went on. From my point of view, I was rather pleased it didn't go to a penalty shootout at the final, because we had the same group of players and the same methodology that we were going to use then. So some great lessons learnt, even when things didn't go quite so well for me.
It didn't go to penalties at Wembley. That's down to all of you guys up on here and the other 7 we're going to bring up shortly. Let's talk a little bit about the first half. I know a number of you have spoken also, and I think perhaps Jono might talk to us a little bit later about how you felt that the build-up, both in the dressing room and in the tunnel, had almost sort of broken the backs of Bolton before you got on the pitch. But let's get into the first half, and they make a good start. And again, we're perhaps a little bit on the back foot. Chamber, you have to make some saves before we really get into the game. Given that perhaps that confidence, that feeling that you all had in the tunnel, how did it then start once the whistle goes? What's the feeling like then when you look around? You've got this full stadium, and then it is just down to you 11.
Well, obviously, it's a different build-up to a normal game. Obviously, you can't get away from it. No matter what you try to do mentally, you know it's a massive game. So I can look back at pictures that I had taken before the game, before we left the Hilton, and look at the pictures afterwards, and I had no colour in my cheeks in the morning whatsoever. I was bricking it, I can assure you. But the good thing about my nerves, and I subsequently spoke to someone who worked for Watford much later under Adi Boothroyd, and he sort of said that your pessimism served you well, because I sort of had this sort of running theme in my head that I was going to make every mistake that everything was going to go horribly wrong, blah, blah, blah. And then eventually, hopefully it didn't. I think that was how I wouldn't wish that upon anybody. I'm being totally honest with you. I went into every game like this, and you actually still supported me. Amazing. But yeah, I was I was the same really until the whistle kicked off. That was what I should say. Until the whistle went, and then I was fine. I had no nerves then, but it was just the build-up. So it was even more heightened because of the scenario of it all and the importance of the game and the crowd. But once we kicked off, it was fine. We didn't start well. Bolton started on the front foot a little bit more, but we sort of, again, did what we did. You know, we just saw it through. You know, we all played our little parts here and there. There was some great defending as well, by the way. I made my little saves, but there was some great other bits of defending, and we managed to get through until just before half-time. And then, as you rightly said earlier, you know, the best goal I've ever seen scored at Wembley Stadium was scored by this man, and that, was the massive turning point.
No,
I thought that I would get the ball.
Can I speak? No.
I miss it.
1, 2.
No, I think as everybody knows that I took the free kicks and corner kicks and everything else, and basically Graham was very at that stage when you think about 20 years ago, he was very meticulous on set pieces, And even this day and age, the amount of goals are scored from set pieces is massive. You know, so I think we worked on them. Had a decent left foot, and basically it was easy for me. I just sort of had to put it in an area, and with lads who had to attack the ball. We had, you know, Michelle, Tommy, PJ, and on a good day, you know, if the ball was right, there's a good chance we're going to score. And I think that day the corner went in it for Memorelli. It was a bit of a flick on, and then I mean the rest is history, you know. And it was a great overhead kick by Nick. And but I say, talking about set pieces, it was a massive part of our game. We scored a lot of goals from set pieces, and we worked on them. Take away the other side, you know, pretty football, everything else. You know, we worked hard on set pieces, and there was a big part of. We scored a lot of goals from set pieces, and on that day, you know, the second phase of that set piece, fortunate enough, Nick was able to stick in the top corner.
Michelle, what were your instructions from GT on set pieces? We saw you attack the near post and of course score against Birmingham, but what was your role?
I thought that Peter was throwing the ball to me, and I just had to go to the penalty point. I had to go to the penalty point, like I scored a goal in Birmingham, but somebody flicked it, and I was on the goal, but
I think
it's my fault then.
Before we talk about the overhead kick, tell us about your week building up to the final, because I'm not sure many people will know this, but there was a chance you weren't actually going to play. Is that right?
Yeah, I don't think many people, even the players, know this. We're in training about a week before the final, and just doing a normal drill, and I went to shoot at goal, and Micah clipped me from behind, and I took an air shot, and felt something a bit weird in my groin. Yeah, you're like, oh my God, it's going to be the biggest game. It's what I've wanted since I've been this high, to have an opportunity to play at Wembley, and I'm like, really don't know what's happened. So I suppose a quick sense of how bad is it, icing, lots of painkillers to see whether I was okay. So I did a few sprints, that type of thing, made sure I could run. I wouldn't have done anything that would have been detrimental to the team, but yeah, ended up being dosed with lots of painkillers to play on the day. Turned out afterwards, after the final, I had an X-ray, and I'd got a avulsion fracture of my pelvis, where a bit of bone had come off the pelvis, but wasn't aware of it. So yeah, I don't.
No, pelvis, he said.
Just to the right. Just to the right of the bollocks, Tommy. Don't be jealous, Thomas. Don't be jealous.
Before we talk about it, shall we see it first? Shall we see it first? Come on in.
Kennedy again. Right. Yes! What a way to open the scoring in a Wembley final.
How was that bit?
I'm just looking now, and I can see that Robbo tried to finish my career there with a rugby tackle just straight after the goal. But incredible. Incredible emotions. Yeah, it was. Do you know what? It's lovely seeing it. It's fantastic. It's something that'll stick with me. But I don't. It was everyone. It was everybody that got us there. It was everyone. All the guys have been. It was everybody that got us there. And
dead on, kid.
Yeah. Something that my career turned out to be incredibly short, and I was asked about that recently, and I said I would rather have had the career with that incredible high than of sort of a 10-year career with nothing like that, or 10, 15-year career. So, yeah, massive.
Darren, how much did you enjoy Wembley? You enjoyed it that much that you never played for us again. You left.
Go out on a high.
So just how good was Wembley for you to then go to Wolves?
Go out on a high. It was the best. It was the best game. It was the best lead up, the best season, best group of lads. Like I said earlier, it was a great moment. You know, for me, I'd been at the club 12 years from the age of 14, and you know, I got to that stage where the next step was, you know, probably the last opportunity to move or to stay, and you know, yeah, I got my contract had finished, my contract hadn't been renewed and it had run out, and it got to a stage where, yeah, I chose to do something a little bit different. Don't look back. Sometimes I do look back. I say I don't look back, but sometimes I do look back and think, I wonder what, you know, if I'd stayed. But, you know, no regrets, because my life's gone on in a certain direction, probably because of choices you take. So it will always be the best moment that I had, shared with you guys and shared with everybody here. You know, my wife missed the game. She was in hospital with the birth of my daughter at the time, who's 19 now. Yeah, so yeah. So yeah, it was a great. It was a great time. You know, moments and memories that we all cherish and will forever. So yeah, sorry I left. But it was a good move at the time.
Just before we wrap this section up, we've heard from Darren. Let's just go round the six others of you. Just that one memory of, say, tell us a little bit about the celebrations afterwards and just what the feeling was like when the full-time whistle went and when you realised what you'd achieved.
I didn't realize straight away what we achieved, because I need 1 week before I can realize that we will play in Premier League the next year. But it's an amazing feeling, you know. We're doing this job to get this kind of moment, you know. And it's you share a moment with people. We are not your brother or sister. It's you're a human being, and you see now we when we see each other, we're so happy to see each other. I think life is all about, and it's like now I just put my kids when he was 6 in the football, bring him 4 times a week in the training ground, and now he's 18 and he plays with Champions League, and now I cannot give him advice anymore because I didn't do it. No, but I think it's simple of that. It's just a moment like that. We want to live when we are football players. That's it.
Peter?
Yeah, I think at the final whistle, it was just an unbelievable feeling, you know, the realise that you want to play in the Premier League. You know, it was hard work getting there. We all have our own individual stories getting there and everything else, and it was at that moment in time, it was an unbelievable day. I think, you know, I would like to say this because in a day I don't want to wait another 20 years maybe to say this, but I think looking at that season, I think it's important that, you know, Graham Taylor and the coaching staff were unbelievable. First and foremost for that season, but for the 4 years I was at the club, Graham was a father figure to me, and it was, you know, he done well for me. I think Robert Page as a captain probably won't get as much credit as he deserves. As a young lad then, I think it was maybe 24, 25, he kept us together. I think he deserves a lot of credit. And thirdly, the supporters. They were fantastic. The 4 years I was here, you know, 1 week obviously you're brilliant, next week maybe you're not, but I think in general, I'll always look back and think of the Watford supporters very fondly. I'd like to thank them for everything they've done for me.
So I was at a stage in my career where I was, you know, just turning 30 at that time, and I was determined to try and take some mental images of what was happening at that time, because I'd been in situations like that previously and couldn't remember anything that had happened. So immediately afterwards, I was determined to try and take some mental pictures of it. The players here will talk about all the, you know, the superlatives about how we acted as a group, but I wanted to try and remember the occasion. Going into the Premier League year, I was determined to make the most of that opportunity. I thought it was, you know, how lucky were we to have the opportunity to go and play in those places against those players. And my memory of that following year was that I chased after an awful lot of good players, and that was my memory of that year. So.
Alec?
Well, the initial reaction obviously was one of immense relief and euphoria. And I remember, going up the steps, the famous steps. It was literally things that you've dreamed of as a kid. And I'd been sub at Wembley about 3 times before that, so actually to finally play on the pitch and be part of a successful team was so satisfying. And then to celebrate in front of our supporters was just the best feeling ever. It was amazing at Birmingham because of the sort of drama at the end of the game, but to do it in front of 30,000, 40,000 Watford fans at Wembley was definitely the most inspiring thing I've ever sort of done, really. And looking back, it still gives me goosebumps now thinking about it. I've only got to really think about lining up for the anthems before the game, and I get goosebumps on the back of my neck now. So it was definitely the pinnacle of my career, and obviously the team I played in and the camaraderie we had between us. We've all talked about it. Just getting back together tonight has been wonderful. So thanks to everybody involved, Jono and all you guys behind the scenes, but thanks to all the supporters for turning up tonight and giving us such a great reception.
And we're only halfway through. Quickly round Darren.
Just quickly, personally, I'd love to thank Jono and the club for organising this again. From a personal point of view, this was a massive achievement for us all. Like we talked about the memories. I missed the celebration in the evening because I was talking about my wife and stuff like that. So to have this night tonight with you all, to celebrate this again for me is a look back to the old lane. So thank you very much, Jono.
Okay, so for me, it wasn't actually after the game. It was the second goal that was the huge point. And fantastic. I roomed with Smarty. We'd come down from Carlisle and we talked about the game a lot prior to. So the fact that, Alan scored the second goal, but what a team goal it was. I think Smarty two-footed somebody in the centre circle. Micah played the ball, played it to Peter. Fantastic team goal. And then I think the realisation, I'd already been dragged off again. I was knackered again, but which was, I think it was because I tried hard, but managed to find something to sprint down the touchline, and sort of you can see the adrenaline in the picture from everybody celebrating that second goal when I think there was a realisation that we'd got to the Premier League, and that to me was, it's a moment nobody will ever take away. It's something that I find hard to articulate, but I think it was more important than the celebration afterwards. It was that bit where, do you know what, we've done it, and everything, the culmination of a fantastic team ethic, brilliant people who worked hard for each other for the good of the team, because we had a real common goal, and that was achieving the common goal. So fantastic achievement.
Thank you, Nick. And just finally, I'm sure you've all got this iconic image, which is behind the guys on your brochures and stuff. The big question, Chris, have you still got that wig?
Yeah, I think it's up in the attic somewhere. I think a few of the guys here could probably do with borrowing it at the moment as well.
I take it you enjoyed the celebrations?
Yeah, you know what? I've been involved in teams later on, and the biggest heartbreaking sight there is in football, and everyone's been there. When you look at a game as big as that, whether it's a cup final, half the stadium empties within 5 minutes. And every time I've been in the final since, I've said to the rest of the players, we can't be in that half that disappears. I've been there plenty of times as a supporter myself, and it was just that moment where you look around and half of Wembley's empty, and there's a few Bolton fans crying up there. You do feel for them.
A little bit.
But it's that moment when you look around and all the staff, all the boys that weren't involved on the pitch that day, and the fact that you got 40,000 still in the stadium, that, we shared a few nights, we've had a few end-of-season do's, we've bumped into a few of you in the town in the past. To know that you lot were out there celebrating that night, that was brilliant.
Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together. What memories from these guys? Alec Chamberlain, Darren Baisley, Peter Kennedy, Chris Day, Steve Palmer, Michel Ngongi and Nick Wright.
We're going to talk to a man who has been knighted by many supporters. The Queen hasn't got round to him yet, but to our eyes, he is Sir Nigel Gibbs. Let's take you back to that season and model of consistency. We heard Darren speak about your advice as a coach, I guess, a player that was coming towards the end of the career, as it turned out, but someone who was keen to help others along the way, just like your father did for so many Watford juniors. Were you already in that mindset of wanting to help the next generation, or were you just as fiercely competitive about your place?
No, I was fiercely competitive about my place, but I think when you're a senior player, it's your duty to make sure that you're supporting the players who play, and that was something I like to think I did well, but ultimately I wanted to still play, and you know, that season was a little bit of a roller coaster for me. I started off in the team. Actually, both Darren and I played in the team early part of the season. Then I got injured at Bolton and came back from injury and found it difficult getting to the team. And obviously then the lads had an unbelievable run of results at the end of the season. And obviously they kept the place, and rightly so.
You've had a lot of years as an ever-present. You've had a year we didn't play at all, without a contract, come and train, earned a new contract. You've had all sorts at Watford, all sorts of highs and lows. How does that season rank, perhaps personally for you? Was it difficult, or was it enjoyable in its own way?
There was a little bit of disappointment in there, but ultimately those two seasons were one of the greatest ones, because the season before obviously won promotion, which was my first promotion, and then obviously to be part of the squad that got promoted to the Premier League, which was an unbelievable achievement from a couple of years. We've been on a journey, a few of the players that were still here, and obviously the supporters as well. You know, we had some bad times in Division 1, and then thankfully the boss came back and turned it round and put a group together. And you know, people don't realise how hard that is. I do now, having been on the coaching and the assistant manager's role, to bring a group together. And the lads talk about belief and stuff like that, but that can only come from one person. That's the top man. You know, and he instilled that into the staff he worked with, and then into the players. And that is so difficult to do. Being in football now as an assistant manager, it's very hard to get a group that is fighting for the cause and fighting for the shirt. It's really, really difficult. So the lads deserve all the credit that they're getting tonight. And also, I think the fans, you know, I know some of the supporters, because obviously but so do the other players. They come to the supporters' nights, the sponsorship nights, they're around the ground. You know, they were part of that journey as well, because 3 or 4 seasons earlier was in Division 1, so they stayed with us as well, you know. So, you know, everyone's, you know, deserves a pat on the back, and, you know, for me it was a fantastic season.
Everyone, including you, I think you should just turn around and see what a massive round of applause you're going to get from everyone, Nigel.
I think we should probably start. A lot was spoken, maybe perhaps by Kieran. We were talking about Tranmere. So we've got the two at the front row. Should we just start? Anything to say for yourselves in your defence?
Start with Smarty, because I can't even remember it.
I think you might be able to remember it here, Jono. Well, we can't quite see what you did.
Yeah,
but you want to kill the linesman.
Might have been what he said, John.
Gaffer said, that's my son. Leave him.
So we have a penalty. I think this is your moment of glory, Smarty, isn't it?
Kennedy against Achterberg. He saved it, and Ngongi scores with a follow-up.
So what happens next?
Be honest.
It wasn't my fault.
He says it wasn't your fault.
No, I thought it was a corner. Oh, there we go. I'm getting pushed there. No, all joking aside, I think it was a corner kick that had come in and had stood in the goalkeeper's toes by accident. And
it just happened to be there.
Yeah, and he pushed me, and we got the penalty. I think that was the recollection. That little clip there didn't really show that.
It didn't show you doing whatever you did to
I've got no
David
future on
Kelly,
Sky
did it?
TV now, anyway.
Yeah.
That was it. A corner kick come in. Job was to try and get in on top of the goalkeeper. Really, game was really flat. I get sent off.
Did you punch him or not, Smarty?
No, I missed. I used my mouth instead. In case you've not seen that.
That, as we know, kicked off the run to the playoffs. Tommy, let's bring you in. That kicked off your special run of goal-scoring form as well, didn't it? But let's take you back a little bit before then, because I guess you've been in and out of the team, haven't you, during the season? Tell us about what nearly happened in January.
Yeah, it's difficult to look back on it now because I hadn't played the majority of that season, and I was very, very close to leaving the club. I'd spoken to Alex McLeish at Hibs, agreed personal terms, agreed everything, agreed with my family that I was going to move to Edinburgh, and more importantly, agreed with GT. Let's be honest, that was the first place you went to. He told me that he was willing to let me go. However, there was a place in the squad for me. I just had 2 years of playing as one of 3 centre-backs. We'd got promotion. When we needed a goal, I went up front and just did what I did. Caused a few problems, and we scored a few goals. But it was a difficult season for me, in all honesty, which ended in the best way possible. But we weren't to know that then, and I just wanted. There's no point in being a footballer if you don't play football. Let's be honest about it. So it was very, very close, and I'm not even sure. Like Wrighty said earlier on, you know, he pretended he was injured for when he scored his overhead kick. And let's be honest about it, he was just helping it back into the area, lads, wasn't he? He wasn't aiming for the net. His job was to help it back into the area. I would imagine GT had a go at him for scoring, because what he was supposed to do was put it back in for me and Michelle. But you know, yeah, I was very, very close, John, to leaving the club. But Pagey would have lost his drinking partner, so Pagey got it over the line and I stayed.
I was going to say, what changed? Was it Pagey? Did you have an influence on Tommy staying, and was it done over a drink, maybe?
Absolutely, the social that year was excellent. I think that, no, the team spirit, I've heard all the lads talk about it tonight, the team spirit we had was phenomenal. And it come from the front, absolutely, with GT. He knew when to get us on the grass, he knew when not to. And examples of, you know, if it was late in the season, January, February, March maybe, he'd come in and he'd say, in one particular instant, I remember him asking for 6 volunteers to drive, and the rest had to get in the car with him, and he sent us on a wild goose chase around the Harlequin Centre 4 times, and
he used to tease us, to be fair. He used to get us changed first, didn't he? And we all thought we were going out running.
We're all no kit, and we're driving around the Harlequin Centre, and we'd end up at Rita's, and Rita would have made sandwiches and tea and coffee, and we'd watch the game back from Saturday. You know, so I've never known any other manager to do that, and Rita was part of the coaching staff. So it was, you know, he knew. And while I'm on that, I'd like to thank Rita for obviously being part of this tonight and the family. It's a pleasure to have you as part of this. So little things like that, he knew when to get us on the grass, when to get us off the grass and have a change, and man management was excellent.
Tell us a little bit about your role as captain and what it was like to captain this group of players.
Well, it was a pleasure, an absolute pleasure, but made easy by the group of players that I had. Smarty was hard to manage, obviously. But, you know, I had, and still is, I had we had a great changing room. We absolutely had a great changing room. Gibbo, Chambo, Steve Palmer, you know, Darren Paisley. I haven't seen him for 20 years. Great to have him back in the room tonight. A fantastic event, but we had great professionals. Being involved in intermediate football now with youth football, I don't see the characters in football anymore like we had that year, especially. You know, we had. I'm looking at Jono in front of me now. He's worse than Smarty, in all fairness. I'm not going to.
I was going to say that anyway.
No, you was hard work.
Can I just interrupt?
Yes,
please.
John, move on, please. Tommy's not allowed to talk. I'm going to keep going. Tommy's not allowed to talk. AG, keep going.
That wasn't the first time that Smarty and Jono were asked to leave a venue. And me and Pagey negotiated with bouncers in most bars in Watford.
You had no negotiation skills, Pagey.
But the team spirit we had that year was second to none, John, and it was a pleasure to lead those boys out of Wembley.
Robbo, what was it like being a homegrowner and a young player coming into this team?
For me, it was a fantastic upbringing. It made me the person I am today. Just for the roots, obviously growing up in the area, being local lad was extra special for me. But I grew up with Nigel's dad, Dennis, who took me into the academy at a young age of 9. He showed me the ropes and showed me the way. And then obviously working under Tom Wally, the likes of Tom Wally, Kenny Jackett and GT, the great man himself, put me on the right ropes. Yes, they had to pull me in a few times and tell me what was wrong and what was right, but so did the players at the same time. So for me, it was a perfect match, and I just got on with it. And like you say, the players, the ex-players now that I'm sitting around, they helped me out massively throughout my youth and taught me the way of how it was and how it was supposed to be.
Actually, it was very different for me because, like I said to you before, it was a new thing for me at the age of 30 to move to another country. But when I get there, I think it will be a great adventure for me. After 3 days, we get a away game somewhere, and they put me in the room with Peter Kennedy. And before I came, I say it will be easy for me because I speak English not bad at all. And when I get to the room, he get to the shower and he start talking to me. And I wonder to myself, what did he say to me? What did he say to me? And after I get down to eat the dinner, I call to my wife and I say to her, I have to take some lessons of English because I'm not so good. But to be honest,
you have to take lessons, or Peter needs to take lessons?
both. And to be honest, I was very surprised because I get to the team that was organized. I came in the middle of the season, and like they say all before me, they speak about the spirit of the players is something that it was a huge advantage for us. Maybe another teams have better players than us, but none of the teams have players like we have, the spirit of the players that we have. And I always say that. Now I have a child, my children are growing up already. And I say to myself, I say to them always, if I have to choose my career the same way, and I have to go abroad, it doesn't matter if it's 30 or 28, and they let me choose where to start it again, I will never start it somewhere else. Always at Watford. Because it gives me it give me a lessons not only for football, it gives me a lesson for life. And now I'm coaching, and I have to be honest with you. When I start playing 30 in Watford, from these 2 years that I'm playing here, I'm much experienced and clever in football as a coach now, from the things that we get from Mr. Graham Taylor. That I have to say something about Mr. Graham Taylor, that in the day that I signed, they brought me to Vicarage Road. And someone told me, the gaffer wants to speak with you. And I say, okay, but who is gaffer? And I was standing like that, yeah. I was standing on the lobby, and he said to me, the gaffer call you. And I don't know where to go. I say, who is gaffer? I say, why are you not going? I say, excuse me, but who is gaffer? I don't know who is gaffer. And he said to me, Mr. Graham Taylor. And the last time that I met him, it was a great person. Mr. Graham Taylor was a great person. I was commentator the TV of Israel in the Euro of Swiss of Austria. And I was sitting on the media, and somebody touched my shoulder. And I turn around, and I see Mr. Taylor. And when I see him, I always have a huge respect for him. When he was speaking with me, even I was 31 years old, I take my eyes down because I was very appreciated. And he speak with me like that, and I say to him, I have to say to you something. I have to say to you a big thank you for the chance that you give me to play for Watford and to taste what is European football. And I say to him, I appreciate it for you all my life. So it's a great answer for me.
Thank you, Alon. Micah, let's bring you in. The two midfielders are sat side by side. Tell us a little bit about how it clicked, why it clicked with you and Jono. Before you do, we've got this clip. Talk us through this, because this is a special goal for you, isn't it, Micah?
Yeah, because I didn't score many, so it was special, yeah.
Certainly didn't score from that range.
Yeah, you're right. I think my baby was born 2 days before my son, and we didn't plan this. This wasn't planned. We just did it. I probably summed up our team spirit, I suppose, in the way we was. So that wasn't planned. It was instinctive. So was a shot, I suppose, as well. I came to Watford at a time where, when I came, when Graham brung me, Peter, I think Jason come, there was 4 or 5 of us that come. We come to a team at a club where Jono, Beard, Mooney was there, Page was there already, Gibbo was there, and they was hungry. These were hungry players, and Graham come and he brought us all together. The professionalism from Gibbo especially, I've got to commend Gibbo as well, because Gibbo was someone I looked up to immensely. 100%. And you talk about team, we wasn't just a team, it wasn't 11 that won that day, it wasn't. We was a squad from the beginning. We pushed ourselves in training. For me as well, Graham Taylor for me was obviously a father figure in what he done and how he conducted himself with me, and everyone knows the admiration I got for him, but more than that, the admiration I got for the club and the players that I played with, not just players beside me, Gibbo, Alec Chamberlain. You know anyway.
Emotional, mate.
I'm getting emotional because I like the how we was as a team. It's just that how we came together at that time was amazing. It was truly amazing. The club seemed to be drifting. I was going up one way, Peter was coming from somewhere else, Jason was coming from somewhere else. So we was all we was all hungry. We all wanted to do well, and we all just bought in. And I'm not sure.
Well, I think that was what GT had about him. You know, he knew the type of character that was needed at Watford. He had a certain type of player, and I think everybody bought into that. And obviously he did his homework behind the scenes to find those type of players, those type of characters, like Micah, like Jason he's talking, Pete, Smarty, Righty, and everybody that came into that club at that time would have died for each other. Like I was saying earlier, individually we weren't the best probably, but as a collective, we used to go into games knowing that we would grind teams down, and it was just a massive part of the club. And people talk about, like for me, whenever they speak to me, who was the best player they ever played with, and when you look back through the history of Watford as a football club, the amount of English internationals or internationals that have played for the club, I have to always come back to obviously who I play with and the success we had, and having that partnership with Micah for me was just amazing. I can't really put a finger on why we clicked or what happened, but we just sort of flowed off each other's game, and I used to try and kick people. He had a bit of skill, and we used to try and do it that way.
Yeah, I think I would say we demanded. No one was allowed in the changing room. No one was allowed to be big time. No one was allowed not to put the effort in the training. No one. We used to train hard. It was competitive, very competitive. It was. Pagey. I'm glad someone mentioned Page. I think it was Peter that mentioned Page because he deserves the recognition he got, to be fair, because he was a young captain and he dealt with a lot of volatile players, and he did lead as well, to be fair. And we was volatile. There was certain people that did clash, and we was a volatile group. But Page led as well. And that was down to the leadership of the club, and that came from the top. As Gibbo mentioned, it did. It comes straight from the top all the way down. And he was a lieutenant. Gibbo was a lieutenant. He was. He made sure that the standards that Graham had set, whether he was playing or not, we adhered to. And we did. And we was really competitive. And I think that's why we had the success we had that year.
You mentioned, guys, quite how competitive it all was. Alan, leading into the final at Wembley, how worried were you that you mightn't actually play a part at all, given the competitiveness of the squad and how many players there were to choose from?
Well, I think, in all seriousness, he'd said to me when I'd lost my place at Tranmere, he said, your punishment is getting back in the team. And I think the one thing we had as a group, the professional respect was through the roof. I don't think it was any coincidence, the makeup and the genetics of the group. We were competitive, we were aggressive. I asked Pagey to ask the gaffer if I was on the bench at Wembley. because the subs hadn't been announced. Paige, you might not even remember that. But I was genuinely wanting to check if the team was staying the same. And the picture behind us, if anybody wants to look at it and check it, look at the boys in the suits. Not the boys in the kit, the boys in the suits, to a man, mouths are open, they're singing, everybody's together. And Bolton suited us as well. I think going into that game, all I can say for the group, it's a pleasure to play in the team. I don't think we were getting beat that day, to be honest. There was just a level, there was a spirit, there was a togetherness. Alan Hassan doesn't just speak well today. I remember a team meeting that we had at Stanmore, and it was between the Manchester United game. I think they beat Bayern Munich, and then we play on the Monday. And Alan did an unbelievable speech for the guys, coordinated by Kieran. But I think anybody that was in that room, the one thing that we did as a group of men, we were quite emotional. And he touched us, the gaffer touched us. And, you know, still touching us now. Every one of us is here because of him. He's a great man.
You've spoken there about the emotion, you're talking about the togetherness. Tell us, guys, a little bit about the scenes in the dressing room before kick-off at Wembley and just how that made you feel when you went out into the tunnel. And you know, lots of you have spoken before about how you feel you'd won the game already, but tell us what went on in the dressing room beforehand.
Obviously, there's a bit of anticipation amongst everyone. Obviously, I was suspended for the second leg of the semi-final, and
no way.
Gibbo was excellent.
Shock.
He got. I was suspended for the second leg.
It wasn't his fault.
It wasn't my fault. He dived.
Yeah, you missed him. Yeah.
But Gibbo was at St Andrews. I went to watch and I sat in the crowd with the fans, and he was exceptional. And Gibbo was someone that I looked up to as a young lad growing up, because he was a great example to the football club. He was a leader of men in the dressing room. The way he conducted himself, on the training pitch, you always wanted to be like him. You always wanted to be the defender like him. So I was in awe of him. And to be fined for the same shirt was obviously a bit of a shock because of the type of guy that he was. But for me to get it, a little bit disappointed in the sense of Graham had put his faith in me, but at the same time, I felt that Gibbo deserved it because of the way he played. But then it was important for me is that I went out and played for Gibbo, for Graham, for giving me the opportunity to play in the final again. And yeah, I mean, not nervousness, but excited. I knew that we'd beaten Bolton twice before in the league. So that excitement of squaring up to them in the tunnel was that look at them and let's see what you're all about, because we've got above you now. We've beat you twice, but yeah, it's a totally different game. So let's see if we can intimidate you in the tunnel, which I felt we did. I felt we intimidated them.
Was that you?
No. Wasn't me. I did kick Johansson to start with, because obviously Kenny taught me well. And he used to say, you always get the first tackle in, but I never thought he'd get up. That was the killer bit, where I thought, he's got up, now I've got to be careful. But no, what an occasion to play in as well for obviously for a young lad, the age of 20, to be playing at the Wembley playoff final, to get the opportunity then to go to the Premier League was a surreal moment for me. But yeah, I mean, once we scored the first goal, we took control of the game, and we knew then, like you said, like everyone's talked about, is that we had that togetherness, that it wasn't being broken. No one was ever going to get in between it. No one was going to disturb it. Once it was ours, and you had to work extremely hard to take that off us. And if you tried to, we'd take it even more. And that's the group of people that we work with, and it was an absolute pleasure to work with. And obviously, Gifton's here tonight, who I grew up with through the youth ranks, and he was, again, talks about his injuries, but the way that he was around the place as such a young lad as well, to the way he conducted himself was fantastic.
I think it's...
I was going to say, tell us about the suits as well, Tommy.
Yeah, suits was a different thing. Obviously, quite clearly, all of the lads that are here and the ones that are not, I was the worst player out of all of them. but I was always the best dressed.
So you thought?
Tonight proves the point. But we get to Wembley. We get to Wembley after a fantastic time. And obviously, Skip's got enough problems of his own with sorting the tickets out, because it's a big deal, isn't it? You were only a young lad. And GT came to me and Keith Millen, who's not here tonight, and said, can you sort the suits out? So we went into to the Harlequin, went into Sirius Atiro. I don't know whether some of you remember.
It's my best suit.
And we sorted out beautiful navy blue suits, blue shirt, blue tie. We came back, had photographs for GT, and he went, there's no yellow, red, or black. And I went, no, but they can't do those in 4 days, Gaffer. He went, okay, leave it with me. I'll sort out the flowers. And if you remember, we had the yellow flowers on top of the blue suits. We arrive at the stadium through the Bolton supporters, like I think it was right he said earlier on. We were in suits. It was FA Cup final day for us. You don't go to Wembley and lose. Many of the lads have said how important that was and the mindset that you have. But there's always a doubt in your mind, because there's a winner and a loser on every Wembley game. Now, yes, we'd prepared properly all of the way through. The night at Birmingham is one of the best days of my life, probably the second best. Gets to Wembley, professionally, the best day of my life. But we turned up in suits, they turned up in tracksuits. Now, Neil Cox, who became a Watford player later on, we signed him. It was his fault we got relegated. Was a good friend of mine. He was a good friend of mine. We were texting earlier on today, and I said I was going to hammer him in front of Watford fans. So I'd appreciate if you'd share it on social media.
Consider that done.
But they turned up in tracksuits. And GT was very much, this is a cup final. This is our cup final. This is your cup final. And it was. You know, I can be brutally honest with you and say I played in exactly the same game 3 years later for Birmingham against Norwich. Granted, it was at the Millennium Stadium, but it was the Championship playoff final. I couldn't even tell you the team that we had. I couldn't tell you Birmingham's team. But I know our team.
Alan?
Just one thing, in the end of the things that Tommy speak about, that he cannot remember his team from Birmingham. You know, when you are a player or a coach, you can win things, you can win medals, trophies, whatever you decide. But one thing you take for all of your life is memory. As long of memory that you got you from career, you are the lucky guy that you have. And the memory that we are sitting here 20 years after this season and then qualify is one of the biggest moments ever that you have. And 20 years from now, we will sit and we will remember in this evening. And I want to say a big thanks for Jonah that organized this evening, because no, you don't do that again. But when I was thinking about Watford, I always remember this season and especially the final in Wembley. Now I have the second moment for my life is this evening. Thank you for everybody.
I just could relate to what Robbo was saying. You know, we all deal with pressure, nerves in our own way. And certainly on the coach from the hotel to Wembley, you can't help but be nervous. You know, of course you are. You've got the expectations and of all the supporters. But what you have got in that team, in that changing room, is a belief that we were fitter, we were stronger. You know, we were on the ascendancy. We finished 6th, and in the main, teams that finish 6th normally go on to get promoted because they're full of confidence. We had that belief. It was borderline arrogance. We actually did. You know, there was no pressure on us. We were the underdogs. We weren't expected to win that game. And I remember walking out, leading the boys out. Really proud moment for me, holding the mascot's hand. And when the fireworks went out, when we walked out the tunnel, the fireworks went out. the noise of the fight, the mascot, absolutely, squeezed my hand, and the atmosphere that we created was unbelievable. And to walk out and to lead these boys out was really proud. The best moment of my career, without doubt. And and then to walk out, thank you, to walk out onto the pitch, and I've watched it back many times, and I've made the kids watch it back many times as well. And to walk out and the commentators say, who's going to be the first week one to win? And it was me. I'm not going to lie. I actually waved to the family in the stand at the time. But no, it's like I said, you deal with it in different ways. And when you get in that changing room and you're with your group of friends, your band of brothers, and you get into your kit, then I think we were untouchable. We knew going into that game that we were going to win that game, absolutely.
I think we should. We've spoken about the first half. We've spoken about the first goal. You might have all thought we were still going to win it, but I think there was plenty of nerves amongst the 38,000 in that second half until we come to the moment coming towards the end of the game. We've already mentioned about the two-footed tackle that kicks off this move. Wasn't you again, was it, Smarty? You missed it? No. Okay. Well, let's watch it back. And guys, Micah, you play a key role in this, of course, as well.
That's a red card.
Missed him, didn't you? You missed him, Smarty.
How'd you get away with that, Smarty?
But,
Smart is in miles of space. Smart! Yes! Destination Premiership. Surely now. Just look at
Was there any doubt in your mind to hit that first time? Because I think you watched the extended highlights back. We've missed many a chance to put the game to bed before then. But what was going through your mind as Peter rolls that ball across to you?
There was no doubt on what I was going to do. I didn't know what the outcome would be. That's right. I think anybody will tell you that. I think in that situation, you're just hoping for contact. The pass was absolutely immaculate.
John, he said no problem, son.
No, yes. For everyone, no problem, son.
Yeah.
Did you get that, Alan? Yeah, you got that, Alan.
It was perfect. I think what else do you do with it? Really, what's the other option? I shut my eyes and hope for the best. A bit like Righty. Righty shut his eyes, off his shin bone, there you go. Anyway, when you score at Wembley, you're gutted when someone scores an overhead kick. But it's all right when it's your teammate. We've got a good, the turnout we've had tonight, and Peter, you can go through the list. I think Gibbo, Pams, different personalities, quiet guys, but they lead the way. Basie, great guy to play with. Fantastic to play in front of the two midfield players. I'm delighted I got the honour of doing that. That's it.
We're all delighted you put it in the back of the net.
The last 30 seconds, I remember, obviously, we were under pressure and them getting a shot off. And just after that, I said to the referee, how long is left, please? This is relentless. And he went, that's it. When your goalkeeper takes the goal kick, that is it. I'm blowing the whistle. And that was the first time in the game I actually, took a step back and went, wow, now I can enjoy it. And what a feeling that was. And when Chamberlain took the goal kick, that was it. He blew his whistle, and you can't describe that feeling. To see all the supporters in here tonight, celebrate like we did, was phenomenal. And to walk up the Wembley steps with all the boys, with all your pals and your mates that you knew had your back was such a special moment. But Moons has just said now about the order of it.
Yeah, I think as part of the preparation, we did. To be honest, boys, I don't know how long we did this for, but we had the same order. Alec, Chuchy, Darren Beardsley to everybody else, Chuchy face to us. Yay, Chuchy face. Pete, I knew what order I went out on the pitch. Providing I kept my starting position, I stayed in that order. And we did it at Wembley. We did it for the trophy. We did it at Sopwell House afterwards. It's probably strange that we haven't done it in that order tonight. Micah was mourning because he was stood outside for ages, and then Jono went, well, I'm at the back because I had the number 10. But it was just organised without saying, you do this, you do this, you do this. It was just how we did it.
And who was that down to?
Everybody.
The group.
Everybody.
As a group, we had... do you know what's brilliant for me tonight? Seeing the young boys at that time, Gifton has spoke like an absolute gentleman tonight. He was a kid in that team. But because he was 6'4" and huge and had the audacity to answer me back, at that time, I never thought of it. I never thought of you as a child, mate, but you won games for us. Robbo, the same, and the other young lads. Yeah, we had good middle pro. There was no egos. It was very, very different to the current game. Smarty's one of the best finishers I've worked with. You know?
Really?
Yeah. And that's how bad the strikers were that I played
20
with.
years too late.
And he didn't mean it. He just didn't mean it. It wasn't
He didn't mean it. He thought I'll hit it with the outside of my foot at Wembley in the last 5 minutes.
The boys knew.
But that's how we were, you know. It was like that. Micah's go to work in the tunnel used to drive me mad every week. I used to think, shut up, Micah. But he'd do it every week because that was your routine, pal.
You know, as you say, that we had ownership. He gave us ownership as well. We had no routine, as Tommy said. We didn't go out. Graham gave us ownership, accountability, responsibility. Do you understand? So we knew what our roles was. We had to look at each other after each game and know, well, what happened there? No one could. Graham didn't have to shout at us really too often. I think while he was with me, for the 7 years I was there, he must have lost his cool with us about 3 times because we had ownership. He gave us ownership. We took responsibility. And as Tommy alluded to there, where we stood and what we did, I would always go out the back, and everyone respected that. Some people go out the front. Everyone respected that. So we all had ownership. Everyone knew what their role was. And I think you don't get that now. I'm starting to see it now lately, to be honest with you, and with the England teams in the 20s and the 19s, and they're starting to win. I can see that coming back. But we was 3 at the back. We played 3 at the back years ago. People talk about 3 at the back. We played 3 at the back. We've done it years ago under Graham Taylor. It's not new. That ain't new to us. It's not new. So he gave us ownership and responsibility, and I think that's why we've done so well. If you give players ownership, responsibility, let them go and play, they'll go and do it. And Graham allowed us to do that. He did. But he made sure he had the right discipline, boundaries, respect, accountability. He had all that in place, and he just let us get on with it. He didn't care if we conceded 3 as long as we scored 4. Like I say, as long as we scored more than them, we do what we want, as long as we score more than them. And that's why I think we've done so well as well, to be fair.
I think as well, the gaffer would say there's a manner in which you get beat. And that was one thing that he instilled. I felt that there was a manner. He wanted to stand on the side of the pitch and be proud of what was representing him. And I think to a man we did that. And I think in that dressing room, he was a passenger on our bus at times. The discipline, the respect, each other. We would drive the fines. We would drive the discipline. If people were late, it would be us that would orchestrate it. And Mike is right. His pride was hurt against Wolves at half-time. That was it. And we found out he broke his ribs at pre-season. And every one of us has spoke about it. We were doing a pre-season run, and he fell in front of us, and he threatened us to laugh. Paige, you were laughing. and in fairness, at half-time at Wolves, this is several weeks later, months even, on Sky TV, we'd let him down that half, and that's the only time I can honestly say it was just his pride, and he actually just let us know what had happened to him as well. So, you know, great man, great people, great lads. You know why we won. We're good people.
Ladies and gents, a quick word from Jono.
Listen, I won't keep you too long. From my point of view, my history with the club is long-standing, as you know. Obviously, a 16-year-old kid coming to the club, so I come in with Bays and had digs with Paige, who got me chucked out of digs and all sorts. But listen, that period of my life, I know everybody's had their own stories about the gaffer, but for me personally, I had the career I did because of him, showing faith in me. But the group of lads that are here tonight and the success we had, I couldn't be prouder. So me being back full circle now, full-time at the club, it was such an honour to be part of this tonight, to set it up and to have all these boys back with us tonight. And obviously for me, it's been quite an emotional sort of journey, organising everything. But on behalf of me and the club, I'd like you guys to, I would like to say thank you for everybody making the effort to come back. And obviously the support you guys have shown us over the years was just unbelievable. So thank you to everybody. Obviously Bugler for sponsoring the night. It's been such an emotional night, but an incredible night, and I wouldn't have wanted to spend it with anyone else. So thanks, guys.
I hope you've enjoyed tonight. It's been quite a night, but I think it's only right that the final word goes to this man.
You stand sort of below, just back off the halfway line, and you look at Wembley, as I was fortunate to look at it that day, and see 38,000 people of red and yellow, and the joy and the excitement. You see, when you think that you've played a part in helping to create that, there aren't words to describe how you feel. And I think what I did say at the time, those 38,000 people just looked as if they were in heaven. I'd said to the players, when you get to Wembley and you win that game on May the 31st, you will experience things that you've never experienced in your life, and some of you will cry. And that was it. Tears myself. It's a great day.
I know this video was good, so if you like this, you'll definitely like this one.